Dr. Brown, but at the same time, you've also received a large number of honors and citations. I can recall a couple of 3 months ago where some local organization honored you and whatnot. Why don't you give us some information about some of the honors and citations that you received for our own benefit here, just to sort of pull together all of those things that you believe to be important that people have said to you through these honors and citations that indicated that you have really made a contribution?
Well, I think that one of the cardinal honors was really last year when I was one of the 3 to be given the Christians and Jews Award. That was, to me, indicated a great responsibility because it said to me that now you must know how to get along with people. And it meant a lot to me. Now, one that I'm going to get next month in Washington, the Horatio Alger Award, that is tops. With me, it's tops.
Explain that award to
Well, that award grew out of the life of Horatio Alger, who came to America's shores a very poor immigrant in rags. He came here and took advantage of what America was all about. And he educated himself and became a journalist of outstanding merit. And when he died, he was rich, rich, rich. And this was the organization that grew out of his life. And I say jokingly that, yeah, I was poor, I was an orphan, but I never got rich. And I think that I never got rich because of my attitude about medicine. So many times...
Financially, you never got rich?
No, I never got rich, but that's okay. I'm very happy because, you know, when you can walk into a grocery store for one item and it take you almost 2 hours to get out of the grocery store, that means a lot, you know. And I go back in my memory to when I was in high school at 16. I had worked and made my way back to high school. And I passed by the door of the auditorium one day, and the high school orchestra, symphony orchestra, was practicing under the direction of Mr. Heister, who was the conductor. I opened the door, I walked in, and walked up to the podium. And when he got through with what he was doing then, he turned to me, he said, yes, he said, how can I help you? I said, I want to play one of those little violins. And first he corrected me and said to me, you don't call it a little violin, you call it a concert violin. I said, well, that's what I want to play. He said, well, do you know how to play it? I said, no, sir. He said, have you ever had any lessons on a violin? No, sir. He said, do you know how to read music? No, sir. He kind of laughed and he said, well, I'll tell you what let's do. I'm going to send you upstairs to Mr. Pignanelli, who taught violin, and you tell Mr. Pignanelli what you want. So I did. I went up there, and he says, well, let me talk to your parents. See, at the time I went back to high school was a time when I got foster parents. And the 5th chapter in my autobiography is about those parents, whom I call my real parents, because they were the only real parents I ever knew in my life. So he said, he called Grandma. I called them Grandma and Grandpa. He called Grandma that evening, and when she heard him out, and he told her, he says, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I think I can satisfy her if I'll give her 12 easy lessons on the big double bass violin and put her in the back side of the orchestra with Harry Dean, who was an expert at it, and I think she'll be happy. And I was happy. One day I came in for rehearsal, and as I was getting back through the orchestra, one of the students says, Dot says, are you going to hear Marian Anderson on Thursday night? I said, no, I don't guess so. Who's Marian Anderson? Never heard of him. And Mr. Heister heard the conversation. He called me over to the podium. He told me who Marian Anderson was and what Arturo Toscanini said about her voice. Pardon me. He said a voice like hers is only heard once every 100 years. And then Mr. Heister told me, he says, I'm going to give you a ticket and I want you to go. He said, be sure you go on Thursday night. So after all these things that he told me about Marian Anderson, I started back through the orchestra and I said, I know what I'm going to say if the next person asks me. And sure enough, another kid asked me. I said, why, of course I'm going. Marian Anderson is a personal friend of mine. That was one big white lie that I guess God forgave me for. I did go to the concert. And do you know where I sat? I sat, you know how these boxes are in the loges, and the lowest ones, it looks like you can just step down onto the stage. Well, there I sat in my little school clothes in the front row of that box between Mr. Heister's wife and friends. I was embarrassed at first, but only until she came out and sang her first group of songs. I had never heard anybody sing like that before. And pandemonium broke loose in the orchestra, in the whole audience. And I said to myself, I know I can't sing like Marian Anderson, but I'm going to do something with my life that'll make my people feel proud to say that DBrown is a personal friend of theirs.
Dr. Brown, we've got about a minute and 25 seconds.
I told you about me talking.
Let's have you over the last minute or so to give some words of wisdom and knowledge to some of our young people who might have it. Well, go on and say something. You know what I'm...
Well, what I say to young people, and I do make a lot of speeches to young people, I say, as soon as you can, make a choice of what you want to be. You may have to change it, but make a choice. And then that's first choice. And then strive for first choice. Don't accept second choice. And you pursue first choice until you get to first choice. And you may not get there right away. You may have to lose a little time along the way, but stick right to first choice and do the very best you can. Don't ever be satisfied with just good enough. Be the best. And you can be the best if you stick to, and the main thing is stay in school until you reach your goal.
Dr. Brown, let me thank you for giving us this excellent information, and I'm certainly that we'll all be able to profit from your career and your life, and we're just glad that you took the time to come by and give us this information. And let me encourage you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.
Fox 17 presents two extraordinary programs.